Hey fam, I want you to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Roland S. Martin. And don't forget to turn on your notifications. Oh, gentrification here in Washington, D.C. We keep seeing this issue take place all across the country. Now you got white folks in D.C. want to walk their dog-pooping dogs around the yard on Howard University campus. And as a result of the drama last week, this is a letter that was sent to the Howard family by its president, Dr. Wayne Frederick. The statement says, quote, well, first we hear some nice words for him, but he pretty much said, keep your damn dogs off our lawn. Quote, our campus is a beautiful, sacred space that provides comfort and, in many ways, sanctuary in a place that feels more like a second home than merely an academic institution. The yard is a treasured site of our commencement ceremony. It is the ultimate long walk that symbolizes a sacred tradition. Every student's matriculation. We're aware of the concerns regarding dog walking across campus. We appreciate pet owners respecting our campus by not bringing pets onto the private areas. Now, you also have hashtag Don't Mute DC, of course, behind the protest that kept the go-go music going at the T-Mobile store in a DC neighborhood. It was organized by a live band. First of all, organizing a live band go-go street concert tomorrow. It's going to be at 14th and U Streets, right in the heart of a neighborhood that is seeing the problems of white folks moving in, black folks moving out, and it's causing lots of problems. R.A. Teresa, civil rights attorney, filed $1 billion lawsuit against D.C. last year over this issue. Join us on the show. How you doing?
Well, how are you?
All right, so what's the basis of the $1 billion lawsuit? Who specifically are you suing?
Suing the Office of Planning, also suing the D.C. Zoning Commission, and that's based on patterns and practices of Fifth Amendment violations of my clients who have appeared before the Zoning Commission, actually testifying on behalf of their communities, going and asking for certain statutes and regulations to be followed, and routinely these were not followed all across the city, beginning at Berry Farm, McMillan Park, Buzzard Point, Union Market, Poplar Point.
So you're saying that the action of the D.C. government has resulted in this problem with white residents coming in and trying to change the cultural norms?
Well, I would say that the D.C. government contributed to an environment where white people were incentivized to move in, or well-off people, people who were within certain professions is what we alleged, and people who were of a certain age, and these people do tend to skew white. I think it's more of a cultural thing where they believe that they can come into a community and impose their will, as it were. I don't think that that has much to do with the government, but they facilitated that.
How are you seeing neighborhoods gentrified in D.C.? Explain for the folks what that looks like and how it has changed.
Well, for example, in historic Anacostia right now, there's a project being proposed called Reunion Square. And so, you know, I'm just going to give an example. If there's a lot that's maybe 2 stories, and the developer will go to the zoning commission and ask to be able to build 10 stories there. If they bought the lot for $200,000 and now they want to build 10 stories, that lot becomes roughly $1 million because they can do more with the lot. They can do 5 times more with the lot, and so it's more valuable to them. And if that was approved through a deregulated environment, that almost was a subsidy for the developer. And so that ends up raising the prices of everything around it through land speculation. We've already had businesses directly across from Reunion Square, and that hasn't been built yet, that have been displaced because the landlord doesn't want to renew their lease because it's not profitable to renew it at the rate that it was previously at.
So the question then becomes, okay, for black folks, we see this happening, we know it happens, but we also know the land is available. Should we be buying it? Because in essence, and this is really where this sort of battle goes on. Folks live in areas and they want amenities. They want grocery stores, they want more restaurants, they want nightlife and those things. And then what happens is developers say, okay, fine, I would love to build those things, but it's going to cost money, so therefore I must get my money back. So how do we have a black conversation about this where, because it also is impacting us, not just in D.C., but in Oakland, but in Harlem, but in Chicago. We can go on and on and on where this has happened across America.
Well, I think it requires an honest conversation. I think part of that honest conversation is realizing that not everybody wants that. I think that communities are divided. I know in Anacostia, normally you can determine what a community member wants out of a specific project based on their stake in the community. So if you're a homeowner, maybe you want those things because your home values will increase from having those things. But if you're a renter, maybe you don't want those things. Maybe all you want is a grocery store. You don't need all the bells and whistles.
But here's the deal, and this is the thing that I've talked about across the country. The problem is those who have the vote are homeowners because they're the ones who own. And so you sort of have this battle, because if you own, you're the one paying taxes. And so how do we, and I'm being very serious, how do we really grapple with this? Because we are seeing areas that are totally being transformed, and some people like it, some people don't. Yes, folks are being displaced, but also you have this, folks are saying, how do you also deal with low-income housing, or how do you deal with affordable housing? And you have these city officials, what they want gleaming structures. They want vibrant. They want all this sort of nightlife. And you got this battle going on, even in places where you have majority blacks on the city council.
Yeah, absolutely. You have a battle going on. And luckily, in the United States, the way our democracy works, you don't have to be a homeowner to participate in the process, whether that's at the zoning commission or voting. So, I mean, I think everybody's voices need to be heard. I know in D.C., I brought several appeals court cases based on behavior at the zoning commission on behalf of low-income residents and communities. I think that you're right in a sense that people who are residents who own homes tend to participate more in the voting aspect of our democracy. But also, I realize that when it comes to the judicial system, a lot of times, especially when it comes to going against the government, they don't participate as much. A lot of times, those are the poorer residents. And so, you know, again, it depends on your stake in what's going on, and that kind of frames how you participate in our democratic process.
Scott, how do you view the lawsuit?
I haven't seen the lawsuit, but I think he's got an upward hurdle, whether it's the Court of Appeals or the Zoning Commission or the D.C. government, because these decisions that are being made by representatives of those communities appointed by the mayor 9 times out of 10. The other thing is they have immunity, qualified immunity or full immunity, based on that decision making. And as a result, you know, they can't suffer any personal liability simply because you disagree with the decisions. The other part you got to remember is these aren't discriminatory or disparate impact decisions per se. The result may be what you don't like, but the fact of the matter is black, white, yellow, or brown, each of us can go to those zoning commissions. Each of us can ask for what type of development rights that we want or changes. And at the same time, we all can equally participate in buying those properties, investing in those communities. And you can't have a racial animus on the color of your community simply because people of color can't afford to invest while people who don't look like us on this panel can invest. It's just how it is.
Avis, gentrification is an issue. How do we confront it and deal with it? We know it's taking place, and so the question then becomes, as we are seeing development take place in cities, what do? They go after low-priced areas to maximize their dollars. I think it was last year or 2 years ago, there was a group in Atlanta that did a crowdfunding, raised about $9.7 million in 7 days to create this real estate fund. I remember I was on, when I did last year's State of Black America Town Hall for the National Urban League, I literally said it. I said, okay, it's in the Urban League's report. I said, I would love to see the Urban League create an investment fund that does that, where in those areas where you have neighborhoods changing, we should be buying it up.
Exactly.
Yeah, there's got to be a way in which we can find avenues to amass our wealth, that there are like collective buying mechanisms similar to what you just mentioned there, where we can have a stake in these communities. I remember when I was in graduate school, I lived in a cooperative, and the cooperative was really one that was organized by a larger nonprofit organization that basically bought land under buildings that were in gentrifying communities at the time, and they created what's called land trusts. And so that created situations where people who had lower income levels could afford to stay in essence, own a stake in that community, even as it's becoming gentrified. Programs like that, I think, are absolutely critical. Yet I think we also need to realize that something is amiss. Something's going on in D.C. that's not going on in other cities. I mean, this is the city that is outpacing all others in terms of the level and the speed in which it is gentrifying. And so we need to make sure that we keep Chocolate City at least some level of chocolate in here, at least chocolate rebels, because at this stage, it's going to become Vanilla City before long.
Eugene?
A couple solutions. One, chiefly, people got to start buying
without
land.
profanity?
Yeah, without profanity.
Okay,
well, you like profanity. But chiefly among them, people have to start buying houses and start buying homes, start buying land. You can't build black wealth without land ownership. Secondly, you probably need to get rid of the zoning and planning commission and let people just do and build with their land as they choose to, similar to like cities like Houston.
That's the problem when you have no zone.
Yeah, that is a huge problem. He lives there. That's right.
That's the problem.
Exactly. Let me tell you something. You know the best way you do this is the fund that you talked about. If you put one up in all 50 states or in cities that have
30 urban cities.
Top 30 urban cities, right, and let black people invest or anybody invest, then you can compete there. That's a much better way.
The third part about this is that D.C. has a unique situation where every 4 years or so you have about 100,000 people move in and move out, and a good part of most of those people don't look like us, and then a lot of them end up staying, and I think that's probably the real cause of gentrification.
But they're free to do that, though.
I'm not saying they're free to do that.
Well, first, I want to speak a little bit about the lawsuit. So the case, it doesn't. We do allege racial animus, but I think the gist of the case is that they released certain policy documents where they stated that they would change land use designations at the Zoning Commission based on the intent of attracting people who have certain job professions and who are of a certain age. And those are classes that are protected by the D.C. Human Rights Act. And also that my clients actually appeared before the Zoning Commission and faced very bad decisions. In a few of those cases we've won. Berry Farm, we won. And they spoke about how they didn't consider displacement and relocation of residents as they were supposed to. And so that's a part of the lawsuit as well. But I just would like to say that you can get more out of development as a DC resident, but you have to participate in the process. You can get community benefits agreements where it's possible to get land trusts, but you have to participate in the process. Right. And you can create leverage through participating in the process.
All right, Teresa, we appreciate it. Thanks a lot. Roland Martin Unfiltered, be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real as Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing $50 each for the whole year. You can make this possible. RolandMartinUnfiltered.com.